Well, for us, I mean, I think lack of diversity in anything, I mean, and especially when it comes to the Oscars, it's actually very sad because I think we've come a long way in having more content out there than we've ever had before when it comes to content that we're creating and content that we're putting out there. And to not see some of these great actors like Lupita and us and some of these other great actors not get nominated, I think is a shame.
Jamie Foxx got shut out. Eddie Murphy.
Queen and
For
Slim.
Dolomite.
Queen and Slim.
Yeah.
No black film nominated.
Not at
for
all.
this. Nothing. No directors. Nothing. So
Yeah.
what do you see the issue as?
I think it's unfortunate. I think we take 2 steps forward and 2 steps back. You know, as I was thinking about it, it's as if we have these amazing years and we get all excited and we're like, okay, now is the time. And then you come upon this year and it's like, wait, what happened? Because there were so many different actresses, actors, films that should have been nominated but weren't. So it's unfortunate, it's disappointing. You know, I don't think this is it. You know, I'm hopeful that we'll have another moment. But yeah, to see that list come out today, I thought, oh gosh, here we go again.
See, she said something right there. Couple steps forward, couple steps back.
back.
Remember last year, Oscars 3 of the 4 winners were blacks. You're like, not this year.
Right.
Not happening this year.
Were the films that good, Tamaya?
I mean, Queen and Slim,
Yeah.
I felt, I mean, it just, if not for cinematography, I mean, it was just so beautifully shot. I mean, so artistic. So, you know, and of course I've read about Jennifer Lopez, you know, with Hustlers. So yeah, I mean, we could sit here and debate it back and forth, but I feel like missed opportunities. I feel like there should be more names on that list this year.
All right,
sure.
the one actress who was nominated, Cynthia Erivo, who got nominated for Harriet.
Correct.
If y'all remember, let's give it up. Oh, she one of ours now, huh? She one of ours now, huh? Remember that for Harriet? She black now.
She was black
Red,
ago.
think about that. A couple of months ago when Harriet comes out, like, oh, we don't know she played the slave role because she's not
from England and all that.
Yeah. Randy, speak on it.
Hey man, that color, I mean, a black, if you black, you black.
Right.
You know what I mean? It don't matter where you're from. If you black, you black. And I think she gave an amazing performance. And, you know, I like the movie. But for me, and I didn't think this was going to win, but for me, I'm an Eddie Murphy fan, and I still feel he got slighted from Dreamgirls. And I'm like, can we get some love? Because from a dramatic acting standpoint, he's fantastic. And I thought he killed it in Dolomite.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he killed that. Oh, yeah. Pippin is one of my favorite. I like that. You did a good day.
Dolomite is his name, man. When you talk about the whole Harriet situation, think about this. Just when we get into the whole executive situation, being in those boardrooms, the executive rooms, even the movie Harriet, when he was being pitched early on, you remember the story about there was an executive that actually wanted Julia Roberts, a white woman, to play Harriet Tubman. Does that tell you, and I know it was a while back, but at the same time, does that tell you how much diversity is actually needed in these boardrooms?
Absolutely, and I feel it's a contradiction because I know sometimes, you know, white America flips out when African Americans are casted in roles that they feel should go to, you know, the iconic white role. So it's a contradiction. I feel like it's something that we're going to have to continue to fight. But to your point, yes, that's why you need more black voices in these boardrooms to be able to speak up and say, hang on, you know, that doesn't work.
Right.
I mean, if this movie is designed or created or this content is, you know, being produced to cater to an African American audience, we have to be able to see ourselves in the character.
Sure. Right.
And it has to be authentic. It has to be credible. And if we miss that, no, we're not going to support it because it's off. You know.
I don't mind seeing a black actor playing a role that was made for a white person.
Neither do I.
I don't have a problem with that.
Absolutely.
I don't have a problem with a white actor playing a role that may have been designed for a black person as long as the black person wasn't a former slave.
Thank you. I was about to say, it's Harriet. It's
in the
Harriet.
South, you know what I mean? I mean, it's Harriet. It's a person who is, it's a biography. It's somebody who actually existed.
Right.
1,000%.
And I was going to actually add to that, you know, watching a movie about slavery is hard enough.
Yeah.
You know, so we have to be able to connect to it. And it can't just be so off to the point where it feels like entertainment. Because, I'm sorry, slavery will never be entertainment to me.
Sure.
But to be able to see a documentary or a biopic film, you know, it's something that I can connect to because it's part of our history. So at least give us that.
Well, Randy, as a showrunner, when you're going and you pitching these shows, whatnot, are executives or of these studios, these television executives, are they looking for those type of stereotypical roles somewhat?
I'm not sure they're looking for it. I think it's what you bring to it. And I think one of the big things you have to do is you have to continue to fight. I mean, just because you write a character to be, you know, an African-American character, there may be pushback, but I think being successful in this industry is really about just being steadfast and pushing and not, you know, letting go of your core beliefs on what your character or your story is.
And Prince, you look at it the same way?
I do, but I think that, like, that's why it's important to have people in the boardroom that look like us, because if we're telling our story, executives that don't look like us are not going to understand our experience. So to have somebody in the room that's able to speak our same language and to hear our voice and understand that voice, I think we need if we want to actually tell our story.
What I don't understand, yeah, exactly. What I don't understand about this is that, okay, we see more actors, we see wallpaper, you know, put them in front of the camera. But once again, the big decisions are made behind the scenes. And this is not just in the film or the TV industry. How many times have we seen like a department store, because they don't have diversity in the boardrooms, making mistakes when it comes to advertisement and things like that?
Right.
So why is it that we're not pushing for more executives of color in these boardrooms? Why not, Tamara?
Well, I think, yes, it's twofold. I think one issue is having more executives of color in the boardroom, but also, if you are executive of color, you have to have the courage to be able to stand up.
Speak up!
And say that that's not okay. To your point, it's funny you just brought that up as an example, because I was thinking about the same thing, where we had this wave of these, you know, big brands, these luxury brands making these critical mistakes. Like, this is racism. And I just felt like, was there not one person in that boardroom when that decision was being made that, you know, couldn't say, hang on, guys, that's not okay. And if there were people of color, you know, person, African American, whatever, you know, you want to call it or direction you want to go, why didn't they have that confidence or that courage to say, no, this is going to offend a ton of people? So, you know, that's one example in, you know, the brand space. But yes, in entertainment, it's having that ability, having that courage, being strong and saying, you know, it's better that we have this conversation now rather than, you know, when we have the fallout later on.
And I think that's the most important thing, Donny. Not just to have a face, but to have a voice and be willing and courageous enough to use that voice.
How we get that voice, Randy?
Well, I think it's about really being courageous, but, you know, also standing, you know, for your point, because you can say something and they're like, no, but we really think, you know, we want to push this ad using our example, but you have to stand on that. You know what I mean? And I think we also just have to have a voice and speak up for our ideas. You know what I mean? And try to come up with more creative things.
Have you ever had an idea that you really, really wanted, but you couldn't get somebody in that boardroom? You're laughing about it. But you and everybody else around you and your peers see it, and maybe and other black people see it, but you couldn't get them to relate to it and they wouldn't greenlight it.
Yeah, I've had experiences like that. I mean, you know, as much as I'm saying this, it's also about compromising, and I think it's about knowing how to push your idea. Like maybe in the boardroom pushing no, it's not the right thing. Maybe you need to go back to, you know, a person's office and have, you know, a heart-to-heart conversation and explain to them there. So I think, you know, as much about knowing how to handle a situation as it is about just standing up for your own beliefs.
Prince, do you think they just don't want our stories, or is it about the economics?
I actually think that now they probably want it more than ever. I mean, I know this is going to sound somewhat have an irony in this whole story of that none of us being nominated for an Oscar or so forth, but I think they actually want our story more than ever. I'll tell you, so I run Marseille Martin's company, and we had a writers' brunch this weekend of all black writers, and there's more of us than there's ever been. So to be in a room where we have so many writers that you didn't see 5, 10 years ago, you know that now we are in rooms and we're able to start telling those stories. So what we were pushing is the collective power of these writers, the collective power of these production companies. Issa Rae has one now, Janelle Monáe has one now, and there's much more black producers out there than there's ever been as well that are telling our story, that have first look deals to studios like we do at Universal. And our job is to go out there and make sure that we drive those stories and make them come to us. And I think Issa's doing a good job of doing that by creating all these other platforms.
You mentioned Issa Rae, Marseille, the young lady from Blackish. Like, she's like 15, 16 years old.
15 years old.
Executive producer on the movie
the youngest executive producer in the history of Hollywood, and the youngest one with the major motion picture deal.
Lena Waithe.
Yes.
For sure.
Black women are really doing their thing. Is that kind of, I don't want to say it's the trend or what's in right now, but that's kind of what Hollywood's looking for.
I think it's microcosm of the world, though.
Sure.
You know what I mean? The world.
Well, black women do run the world.
Absolutely, absolutely.
See the black lady like this.
But piggybacking on a point he made, what's really interesting is when I started, I mean, I've been in this business over 15 years, and when I started, it was just me. And like now in the rooms I go to, it's like 3 or 4 of us, which is like crazy. You know what I mean? He talked about the number of producers there are now. I mean, it's a good time for us, but we can't take our foot off the brake. We have to continue pushing forward.
But I also want to add one other thing to it. As we were talking about, like, these producers that have it, it's not just these black women, it's black women that have voices. So, like, you look at Issa, she has a big voice. You look at Lena, she's representing a whole community that has been underrepresented for a long time. And I think these and Marseille, she's representing young black girls and the young future of our country. So I think that when we look at it, these aren't people that are just black. They're people that actually have something to say.
Oh, they definitely have something to say, and we're here to listen to it as well. Tamaya, you're in the boardroom. You're once again in the mall. Shine, y'all, is huge. One of the biggest production companies out there. I'm talking about 51 Minds is under in the mall. Shine, truly original.
Yeah,
so shows like Real Housewives of Atlanta. I don't know if y'all have heard that little show before, or Big Brother.
Yep.
You guys got that. You're in those rooms.
Yeah.
Give us an idea what it's like. Are you the only black person in that executive room right now?
First of all, I'm very privileged because our chairman is Chris Abrego, who's one of the most successful Hispanic men in entertainment.
Yes,
so he gets it. You know, Chris's career started back when Celebrity was created for VH1 with The Surreal Life and Flavor of Love and I Love New York. So Chris has been around for a long time, and inclusion is a part of who he is. So he leads, you know, with making sure that there are various voices and, you know, the company is diverse in nature. I am privileged to be one of the voices in the room, and what I appreciate is the fact that when we are having a pitch meeting or we're looking at an overall deal, you know, no one's going around saying, okay, give me 2 of you and 1 of you and 3 of you, because we are meeting with someone who is, you know, a person of color. It just is what it is. So I'm very blessed and privileged that I do have a voice, and I have Chris's support, where if we are producing content that's geared to an African-American audience, you know, everyone will look at it. Chris will call me directly and say, hey, Tamaya, have you taken a look at this? Did you have this same reaction that I had? So he's not singling me out because I am a person of color, an executive of color, but because I can lend my voice and he can trust it. And I love that he has that confidence and willing to say, you know, this gave me this reaction. Did it give you the same reaction? Making sure that, you know, we hit it out the park.
I love that.
So yeah, that's a benefit. I do appreciate that.
Talk about the biggest factor involved in getting some greenlit. All right, because we could talk about people of color. Is it about the big star, or is it about what's going to make the most money? What is it? What do you think it is?
For me, you know, being a writer, I think it's about the material first.
Storytelling.
First and
It should be,
foremost.
yes.
Well, that's for you.
It should
but I'm
be.
saying-
I'm talking about to get this green lit. What do
But
you
if
think
your
is the major
material is not good, and just because you have an idea about a black character, if the story's no good, then they're not really going to want to hear it. And I also think you have to do your research and know who you're pitching, what they're looking for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you know, you have to write what you, for me, I say write what you know.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I think ultimately being a storyteller is all about the story.
Right.
Without a good story,
Randy, you feel that black people, we put ourselves in a box when it comes to storytelling?
I wouldn't say that. I think sometimes we focus on some stories, you know what I mean? But there's so many black writers that are writing about so many awesome things that just haven't popped yet. And to them, I say, keep going, keep pushing, because what's interesting is, to me, it's a cyclical effect, and that things like turn around. So you may be pitching an idea that no one wants to hear today, you know what I mean? But next year, they may want that idea. So I would just say, continue to come up with interesting stories that haven't been told.
What do you got to say, Prince?
Well, I 100% agree. Because what my job is essentially, as a producer, is to get content, take it to the studio, pitch it to the studio, and even when they decide that the studio wants to move forward with it and they make the deal with the writer to be able to do it, we still, to his point, we still have to have a solid script before it's fully greenlit. Sometimes it might be 1 draft, 2 drafts, getting rid of that writer, bringing in a new writer, and everything that kind of comes in between that takes so much time. So at the end of the day, it is about the storytelling for us to move forward.
Well.